Alrighty, today's lesson is going to be on subtracting fractions with like denominators. And this is very similar to adding fractions with like denominators because when we subtract fractions with like denominators, we're going to keep the denominator the same. We are going to find the difference of the numerators, and we are going to reduce or simplify it if we can. So make sure that you have these steps in your notes. They are the same steps as when we add fractions with like denominators. So if we have 3/7 minus 2/7, I'm going to keep the denominator the same. So 7 will be my denominator. And I'm going to find the difference of my numerator. So 3 minus 2 is 1. And 1/7 cannot be simplified or reduced anymore. So 1/7 is my answer. Let's try this problem. 9/12 minus 5/12. Well, my first step says I need to keep the denominators the same. So I know that my answer is going to have a denominator that is 12, and I subtract my numerators. 9 minus 5 is 4. So 4/12 is my answer. Remember that because we're subtracting the first fraction, the numerator needs to be larger than the numerator in the second fraction. Because if this numerator is smaller, then we would have a negative number, and we don't want a negative number in our fraction. So make sure that this numerator is larger. This numerator is larger than this numerator. Alrighty, let's try a medium problem. With this, we are going to fill in the blank. Well, I see that 12 is the denominator in our answer, and that 12 is the denominator in our second fraction. So 12 is going to be the denominator in our first fraction. And what could I subtract? 7 subtracted from what will give me 3? Well, if I have 10 minus 7, that would equal 3. So I kept my denominators the same, and I subtracted my numerators and got 3/12. So this first fraction would be 10 over 12. Let's try a couple more. These ones are called spicy, or they're just a little bit harder. 1/2 minus what is equal to 0? How am I going to solve that? Well, I don't have anything on the denominator on my answer, but I know that in order to subtract, what we've been working with is that we have like denominators. So what could I subtract from this to get 0? Well, 1 minus 1 would give me 0, and that would give me 0 over 2, which is also like saying 0 divided by 2, and 0 divided by 2 is 0. So 1/2 minus 1/2 is equal to 0, and that kind of makes sense. So 8 over 10, let's look at this second problem. 8 over 10 minus what minus 1 over 10 equals 6 over what? Well, let's start with what we know. I know that my denominators are going to stay the same throughout this problem, so I can put a 10 below that fraction as a denominator and 10 as my answer as a denominator. So I know my final answer is going to be 6/10. So how can I figure out what goes into this blank? Well, I've got 8 minus blank minus 1 is equal to 6. So I know that 8 minus 1 is 7, so 8 minus 1 and 8 minus 1 again would give me 6. So 8/10 minus 1/10 minus another 1/10 is equal to 6/10. So make sure that our denominators stay the same, and we were able to fill in our numerator by looking at the numbers around it. Alrighty, here are a few problems for homework. And they are set up a little bit differently. I want you guys to try to solve problems vertically as well as horizontally. So with this, remember, this 4 is the denominator, the 3 is the numerator. The 4 is the denominator, the 1 is the numerator. So make sure you keep the denominators the same, which will be the 4, and you subtract the numerator. So I'll let you finish that problem off. Then you've got another problem up here, along with another vertical problem, and then this one is a little bit more tricky, and it incorporates yesterday's lesson. So remember your PEMDAS, and make sure that you add your fractions before you subtract it. Alrighty, try those problems out, and we will work on them tomorrow. Have a great day.